Hello everyone and welcome to my September 2023 reading vlog. We are only one day into the month and I have already started 2 books. The first book was for my 100 Epic Reads of a Lifetime poster, and that is A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. I talk about this more in my vlog that will come out later this year, but it's an alright story that is just completely bloated with a lot of needless detail. So I am 200 pages into it right now since I've been reading it at work, and I will let you know my thoughts soon. And I am currently listening to the audiobook of Charm by Tracy Wolff, which is the 5th book in the Crave series. This book is about the year or so that Grace was a gargoyle turned to stone and her boyfriend lived in her head. Complicated stuff, but this book to me is ultimately useless because in the second book, when Grace wakes up from this, she doesn't remember any of this. So why are we getting it as the 5th book in the series when there has been other stuff going on and I actually forget what's going on in the current timeline? Because we are stuck doing 18 hours of them getting to know each other in a lair and then going to a purple world and fighting a dragon in a purple world. So I am currently almost finished with that. And as for my future plans for reading, I'm not really sure what I want to read next because I want to take this month to kind of slow down because I read a lot in August and I need a small break. Plus, I am reaching my reading goal for my Goodreads challenge this year. I'm pretty close to finishing, so I don't feel like I need to rush through reading a whole bunch of books just to fill that. So I will let you know my updates soon. He's had enough of me. Alrighty, we have sort of a bigger update at the moment because it is 1/3 through the month. I have finished books. I have started another one, so let's get into it. First thing, I finished A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens for my 100 Epic Reads of a Lifetime poster. You will hear more about this in that vlog. All I'll say is that I gave it 2 stars because it just wasn't interesting to me. There were some good parts in it, but it was ultimately bombarded by too much filler that I didn't really appreciate. Next, I finished Charm by Tracy Wolff, and I think I'm giving that one 1 or 1.5 stars. If I had to hear the phrase, "and just like that," or "fuck, just fuck," again, I would have gone on a murderous rampage and killed everyone. It was just an ultimately useless addition to this really long and convoluted story that just goes off the rails constantly. I can't even begin to explain what happened. I told you about the purple world. They fought dragons. There was a time-traveling guy from the 70s who wore bell-bottom pants who turned out to be the villain. And none of that mattered because, Grace didn't remember it. She remembered it at the very, very end, but it didn't matter. None of it mattered. So there's only one more book left in that series, and I will probably listen to it just because I'm a completionist. And next, this morning, I read and completed Batman and Robin Volume 2, Pearl by Peter J. Tomasi, Patrick Gleason, and Mick Gray. I finished the first volume of this, I believe, last month, and this is just sort of a continuation on the idea of Batman training his son, Damian, to be Robin. In this comic, we've got all of the Robins interacting with Damian. Damian wants to try and fight all of them to beat them and become the best Robin, which I think is super, super cute. We see a lot of Damian's backstory, being raised by his mother, Talia al Ghul, and we are kind of muddied down by this weird villain who's just like this creature, gross, like, body horror guy turning people into zombies and trying to fight Batman because they're claiming Batman, like, causes the city more harm than he does good, but then he proves himself that he's for the good of Gotham, so that's all well and good. I only gave this one 4 stars because I just felt it was a bit too muddied down by all these multiple plots, but ultimately the heart of this graphic novel made it worth it. I really enjoyed the relationship between Damian and Batman. It was all very, very good. And the very minimal amount of the other Robins being used was also effective. I just think that all of the, like, zombie stuff was gross, and I didn't really like it as much as the first volume. The first volume felt very concise. It felt it had a clear message. This one felt a bit too distracted, but it's not the worst comic that I've ever read. So 4 stars for Batman and Robin Volume 2. And currently I am reading Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo, the second book in the Ninth House series. I was able to snatch this from the library right off of the cart, the book cart, meant to be returned to the shelves, but there were no holds on the book, so I just snatched it quickly before anyone else could take it. I just took a book off of my shelf, so if you hear books falling, that's why. So Hellbent is the second novel of Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, which was a highly anticipated adult fantasy, dark academia style, rituals, cults in a college featuring a main character who can see ghosts. Her name's Galaxy. Yep. So this is the second novel of that. I won't go too heavily into spoilers, but they are trying to enter hell for some reason. There's demons involved, there's murders happening, and Alex is dealing with the consequences of some guy who pays her to get her to collect money from people. I'm having the same critiques that I had for Ninth House, that being that a lot of the interesting aspects of the novel take a backseat to just really boring and stereotypical sort of, what are they called, like serial crime dramas on television, just sort of those sort of murders of the week type deals. This one has a bit more of a grasp on character and plot because this is the middle part of the story. The first novel really, really felt like it was only the beginning and that the murder was tacked on to give it a sense of story, a complete story. This definitely felt like just an enormous first draft that had to be cut up given how big it was. This one seems a bit more concise, but it's falling into that same pattern of doing, like, B-plots that I really don't care about. Like, the part where she's trying to get away from this guy who is making her go to different people's houses and, you know, tell them, oh, you owe the guy money, I'm gonna beat you up if you don't do it. I just read a part with a vampire. I skipped it. I skipped the vampire part. Me. There's also a demon with a glow stick dick. Why? I am 200 pages into this novel, and it's... I'm trying my best. I'm giving it a chance. I really, really am, because, like I said with the last book, I really wanted to like this series. It's interesting, but there's just a very... there's just something about it that doesn't click right with me. It's not connecting with me as it should. The part about trying to enter hell is really interesting, and I think they're finally focusing on that. And the character dynamics have finally settled, so it's not like I hate any of the people. I just hate what they're doing when there's supposed to be, like, the main part going on, but she keeps getting distracted going on these, like, different missions, and I hate that part. Like, this feels like the middle part of a season of television, and it's not my favorite. So, yeah, I will let you know my final thoughts on Hellbent soon. Okay, I have finished Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo, and I think I'm going to end up giving the book 2 stars. As I said before, I was interested in the plot where they're trying to go down to hell to rescue somebody. I'm going to go into mild spoilers here, so I will keep up a text block until I'm done. So ultimately, the introduction of demons, ghosts, and vampires let me down. I'm normally all about the supernatural kitchen sink, but I just think that the way they were brought in was just, like, anticlimactic. I didn't like the character dynamics between the group of characters who go into hell. I thought the introduction of Trip, or like the recharacterization of Trip, was really oddly placed. I hate that Leigh Bardugo constantly, because of Six of Crows, has to create a found family, and, like, they all have to act like they're a family, and they have to act like it's so tragic, and all the characters are so tragic. Her characters are always so tragic. I don't care. And also at the end, when all of the murders and all of the events are technically not Darlington's fault, like, everything is done to absolve Darlington of anything. Even the demon who possessed him, oh, he didn't actually do it. It wasn't Golden Boy, Walmart Gansey Darlington who did any of the murders. It was actually the demon who possessed him in someone else. So it's fine. Darlington didn't do anything. He's a gentleman demon. Leigh Bardugo came up with one phrase and justified this entire book. Have him do something bad. That's compelling. Like, that's exhausting. I was really frustrated reading this book. This book should have been maybe 2 books, but it's an entire trilogy, muddied down by so much crap that I don't care about. Have it be, like, the first part, and then the second book can be them rescuing him from hell. Like, that's it. I don't give a shit. I was actually glad to see Darlington back as a character in this book, because at least he's different. And I also didn't like the way that they treated Dawes. I think that that's cruel, to constantly refer to her as weak and a rabbit and pathetic and incapable of doing anything on her own. That's mean. Even if she ended up having character growth where she's the scholar or something, that's mean. Don't be mean like that. Anyway, whenever this third book comes out, who knows if I'll even get it. It's probably going to have an even more grotesque animal on the front. And with that done, I am currently reading another book. This one is another Trojan retelling. I picked this up not knowing the plot at all from the thrift store because the cover was pretty. This is Troy by Adele Geras, and so far it's about two original characters who are sisters. They are in the city of Troy. One of them is like the caretaker of Andromache's son Astyanax, and the other one works down in like what they call the blood room, taking care of the wounded and the dead. And they both fall in love with a boy, and they're just around during the end of the Trojan War, so at least this is focused. It's the end of the Trojan War. It's basically when the Iliad takes place, the last 50 days. And the only thing that I like about this book so far is the presence of the gods, because a lot of Trojan retellings omits the gods entirely, or just calls them like, oh, I had a dream, or oh, I'm invoking the gods, but they're not characters. But in the Iliad, they're characters. They have full, like, book perspectives in the Iliad. I don't know, this book I hate in historical fiction when it's two sisters, like, having different perspectives, because they typically have, oh, one of them is fulfilling the good aspects of gender normative society and the other one isn't. Luckily, this one, they're not enough of characters for me to be annoyed by the fact that one is acting out normal heteronormativity and the other one isn't or something. This book is just very repetitive, and there's no plot. They just exist around the Trojan War, and that's not exciting. At least the character portrayals of Helen are fine, and Cassandra are fine. Andromache's is a little bit weird. She keeps thinking that Hector's cheating on her with Helen. I don't know. That's... Anyway, Hector's dead now in the book, so none of that matters. I'm halfway through it. I will be finishing this pretty quickly. This is apparently a book meant for young adults. That's what it says on the back. It's won a bunch of children and young adult awards. I don't know why. This book did come out in 2000, and young adult and children's books were vastly different before Twilight, so I understand that. But yeah, this book isn't that great, but here's the pretty cover. It's one of those ones where you open it, and it's like that's so pretty! This book was $1, so I don't care about its quality in the end. This is just such a pretty book. So stay tuned for my updates soon. Welcome to the wrap-up. I'm so glad that this month is over and we can move on to bigger and better things. So I did technically take a small break this month reading-wise. I did still end up reading 7 books, but I took it easier and I read a whole lot less. Unfortunately, everything I read, book-wise, was garbage, so let's get into it. So for my 100 Epic Reads of a Lifetime poster, I read A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, and I ended up giving the book 2 stars. I will talk about it more in that vlog coming out later this year, but it was a very long and dull story. It should have been cut down immensely. I think I have the edition that had absolutely everything that was published in the periodicals back when it came out, so I'm sure there are better copies of this book. This one was just the 50-cent one that I got at the thrift store, so it's the one I picked. And I was not all that interested in what was going on in the book. I feel like Les Mis by Victor Hugo did a way better job at this sort of storytelling. I then listened to the audiobook of Charm by Tracy Wolff, which is the 5th book in the Crave series. It's about like a magical school. And this book was sort of an interlude book where she is stuck in her own brain for a year with her boyfriend. So everything that happened in the story didn't really matter in the end, even though she remembered all of it by the end. And I don't even remember what's going on in the main plot for the finale book. So when I'm reading that, I'll be very, very confused. So for that book, I gave it 1 star. Wasn't very good. I then read Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. I don't have the copy here because I already returned it to the library. What an immense disappointment. I do really think that this trilogy was just a really, really, really long first draft that she was forced to cut into thirds. Ultimately, this just feels like one huge story that should have been 1 book. Maybe 2. Maybe. But it's just so bloated. It's so drawn out. All the plot lines are a bit ridiculous. I don't care about Alex going over to all those criminal people and asking them for money and being under the control of this man. I'm so sick of everything in the book being very, very like, all men are the worst, they're all bad, except for our golden boy, except for our golden special boy. He's perfect and smart, and without him we're nothing. Pick a goddamn argument. I then read 2 volumes of the Batman and Robin 2011 saga. I read Volume 2 Pearl and Volume 3 Death of the Family. I might read more of them before the month's over. I'll let you know my thoughts here. But Volume 2 got 4 stars and Volume 3 got 3, just because they had to interrupt the flow of the storytelling in favor of the huge comics-wide event, Death of the Family. So that's like every series this year had to be like, alright guys, stop, we have to do the Death of the Family storyline, everyone stop. Joker ripped his face off, come on guys, let's pick up the pace. Like, this just got stuck with the, oh, I'm the Joker, and I rip people's faces off, and I ripped my own face off. Isn't that scary? Isn't that scary? Isn't that like what the Joker is? That's not what the Joker is at all. That is such a bad storyline. I hated it. But the rest of the things in that book were pretty good, so still a 3-star for me. And Volume 2 Pearl was a 4-star. It had a lot of heart in it, even though I felt it was also a little bit muddy, but I enjoyed them both nonetheless. I then read Troy by Adele, Geras, which is essentially a story about 2 fictional sisters who reside in Troy during the events of the Trojan War. It takes place when the Iliad takes place, and then goes all the way down to the sack of Troy. These 2 sisters mean nothing. Their love triangle means nothing. No one in this book meant anything. It was basically like you're standing there while the sack of Troy takes place and the Iliad takes place around you. No, none of the characterizations were worth the, like, writing this book at all. There's no nuance, there's no changes in the character development. The only thing that was good in here, as I said before, is that the gods are present, because most stories like this tend to omit the gods or just say that they're gods and that, like, people worship them, but they're not actual characters. They're characters in here. There's point of views of gods in here. I really liked that aspect, and only that aspect. This is also a pretty book. That's it, though. I'm not keeping this. So this was a 1-star for me. I'm still trying to read as many Greek myth retellings because I do like the subject, but a lot of them are stinkers, aren't they? I want to find good ones. I then ended my month surprising myself. I decided to read my second 100 Epic Reads of a Lifetime poster book this month because I have to do the last quarter of the year. I have to read 4 books in 3 months, so I decided to pick my second one in September. I read a pretty short book and a pretty controversial book. I read The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, and I'm giving that book 3 stars. It was fine. There wasn't a lot of plot, but that was the point. It was very easy to read, and it was simple enough. I got everything in the book. I have this strong urge, though. This strong urge to go out and kill John Lennon. I don't know if I'll keep that, honestly. Oh no. But yeah, you will hear more about my thoughts in my reading vlog. So that was my month. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos very, very soon. Bye bye.